After serving the world for over 30 years, the space shuttle turned its place in history. It's come to a final.
FedEx Express Flight 647 is flying between Oakland, California and Memphis, Tennessee. The aircraft operating this cargo service is a McDonnell Douglas MD-10-10F registered as N364FE. The MD-10 is an upgraded version of the McDonnell Douglas DC-10. The upgrade includes an advanced common flight deck used on the MD-11 and was launched in 1996. The new cockpit eliminates the need for the flight engineer position and allows common type rating with the MD-11. This allows companies such as FedEx Express, which operate both the MD-10 and MD-11, to have a common pilot pool for both aircraft. In 32 years of service, the aircraft operating Flight 647 accumulated approximately 65,375 flight hours and 26,163 takeoff and landing cycles. In command of the flight is a 59-year-old captain. He was hired by Flying Tiger Airlines in 1978 and became a FedEx employee when the two companies merged in 1989. He holds an airline transport pilot certificate with a multi-engine N rating and a flight engineer certificate for turbojet-powered aircraft. The captain's certificate indicates type ratings in the Cessna 500, issued in 1977, and the MD-11, issued in 1996. Throughout his career, the captain accumulated 21,000 total flight hours, including 2,600 hours in the MD-10 and MD-11 series of aircraft. Flight 647 is the last day of the flight crew's 4-day, 3-leg trip during which the captain of the flight is conducting a line check for the first officer. FedEx required this line check because the first officer was a flight crew member involved in an altitude deviation that occurred shortly after departing Stansted, England in November 2003. The 44-year-old first officer was hired by the airline in 1996. FedEx records indicate that the first officer has about 15,000 total flight hours, including 1,918 hours on the MD-10 and MD-11. As previously mentioned, the captain is conducting a line check of the first officer because an aircraft she was piloting in early November 2003 was involved in an altitude deviation. The first officer stated that when the altitude deviation occurred, air traffic control had cleared the flight to flight level 230 during the climb out, but she and the captain believed that they heard the air traffic controller clear the flight to flight level 330. As the aircraft neared flight level 260, air traffic control advised the flight to return to flight level 230. As a result of this excursion, the first officer and the captain were required to complete a line check. The first officer's line check is being conducted today on Flight 647. At about 12 p.m., as the aircraft approaches the airport, the captain obtains the current ATIS information for Memphis. ATIS, or Automatic Terminal Information Service, is a continuous broadcast of recorded aeronautical information in busier terminal areas such as airports and their immediate surroundings. ATIS broadcasts contains essential information such as current weather information, active runways, and available approaches. Pilots usually listen to an available ATIS broadcast before contacting the local control unit, which would use the controller's workload and relieves frequency congestion. As the aircraft descends towards the airport, the captain states that the winds are out of 320, 16 gusts to 22, so it's more favorable to the 3/6s. 2 minutes later, the first officer stated, "I just think we should start putting out slats about 20 miles on the other side because I'm still fairly unfamiliar with Memphis, so I want to get configured a bit earlier for that." The captain responds, "Do what you want," and provides additional information about normal arrival operations, addressing typical step-down and traffic banner procedures, altitudes, airspeeds, and the probability of an early turn into Memphis. The first officer acknowledges the information and requests the in-range checklist. At about 12:03 p.m., the captain stated, "You're driving and you stay focused on that and make me do whatever you need done." The first officer stated, "Okay." At 12:06 p.m., the captain contacts Memphis approach, which instructs the flight to expect an approach to runway 36 left. 9 minutes later, Memphis approach informs the pilots that they should expect to land on runway 36 right instead of 36 left as previously instructed. 6 minutes later, the captain radios that they have the airport in sight. The controller clears them for a visual approach and instructs the captain to contact Memphis Tower, which warns the crew of potential wake turbulence from an Airbus flying ahead of them and clears the flight to land. The aircraft is configured for landing, and the crew discusses adding 4 knots to the VREF speed. A single tail wind shear alert then sounds.
Wind shear ahead. Wind shear ahead.
Moments later, with the aircraft descending through 1,000 feet, the captain confirms that the approach is stable and the approach to land is continued. During the 20 seconds before touchdown, the aircraft descent rate is 12.5 feet per second or FPS. At 12:25 p.m., the aircraft's left main landing gear touches down at a rate of about 12.5 FPS. About 1 second later, the right main landing gear touches down at a rate of about 14.5 FPS. The MD-10 landing gear is designed to be capable of absorbing energy that is equivalent to a maximum airplane descent rate of 12 FPS. The excessive vertical and lateral forces on the right main landing gear during the landing exceeds those design limits and results in the fracture of the outer cylinder and the collapse of the right main landing gear. As a result, the aircraft begins banking and turns to the right. The crew is unable to steer the aircraft back to the left. As a result, it skids off to the right side of the runway and comes to a stop in the grass. Shortly after coming to a stop, there's an explosion and a fire develops on the right side of the aircraft.